Hello, Uplift families and Eyes on the Road listeners. Before we start this episode, I want to acknowledge this week has been devastating for many Texans as we experienced harsh winter weather conditions. Many are displaced and still without clean water. Please know we are thinking of you and are here to offer support as you navigate the aftermath of this storm. Camille and I provided a list of resources in the episode description and are wishing you well. We hope this episode can bring a distraction and also offer resources for you as you continue to navigate the college and career journey. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Eyes on the Road podcast, where we help you navigate the college and career journey. My name is Robert Ortiz, Director of Family Engagement for College and Career.
And I'm Camille Ehlers, Director of Corporate Relations and Career Services.
We're really honored to have Sarah Spooner with us. She is currently the Chief Executive Officer for Rely On Credit Union, and they've been an excellent partner with Uplift Education. And Camille, I'll have you maybe share a little bit more because I know you work closely with them.
Yeah, I am really excited and grateful for the support of Rely On Credit Union, and specifically from Sarah Spooner, our guest today, the CEO of this local credit union that has done made some major impact in their communities that they serve. And I'm excited for our listeners to hear a little bit more about what it means to be a CEO, and how you can also do good in the community at the same time.
If you have listened to us this past year, you may be familiar with a podcast where we had Sherry Rowe with us as a guest. And the title of that was Pursue Your Passion and Find Your Career. And so we're excited to have Sarah with us today to continue that conversation of, what does it mean to pursue your passion and how that ends up in a career, and especially something that's unique to her story, where now she's currently the CEO of an incredible organization. Let's welcome Sarah to the show. Sarah, we're so excited to have you with us today. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
Yes, I'm so excited. I met Sarah, maybe I was in Dallas about 2 weeks. Might be my second week in Dallas, and Sarah gave me a list of amazing restaurants and places to visit, and just was such a great introduction to my work at Uplift. And now, a year later, just having things full circle and being able to take, advantage of some of those restaurants, but just form this connection to Rely On. I'm super appreciative and happy to be able to share your story with you today. So, in your role, can you talk a little bit about your background and your role at Rely On to get us started?
Sure. So I was raised by a single mom, low income, went to 4 different high schools, and was the first person in my family to graduate high school and then pursue college. It was a crazy kind of journey. And our focus when I was a kid was rent and groceries. That was the stress and that was the focus. And I worked full time in high school at a fast food restaurant. And I went to college, and I dropped out of college just because I wasn't prepared. I think I was in that mentality of surviving and focusing so much on that short term, that paycheck. And so I dropped out. I relocated to Florida. And at 23, I realized I wanted more for my life. And I saw that correlation to college and to education. And that's when I kind of really shifted my focus and still worked full time. And then did night school at a community college. Took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree. First person in my family to have a bachelor's degree. And then I started to focus on my master's because it was just one of those things that education opens doors, and education is something that no one can take away from you. It's like your morals, it's your ethics, it's your work ethic. It's just you. And I decided to get my master's degree while I was still in banking. So I was working full time in banking as a teller, an account open specialist, a loan officer, a branch manager. So I was moving up in my career incrementally, and I finished college. I did a job as consulting, and then I had this opportunity to come to rely on as the CFO. And I did that for about a year, and then I became CEO. So it was a crazy journey, a lot of hard work, a lot of choices that focused on doing good and being good. And just education was always in that path.
Do you remember you said at 23 you had like a moment where you were like, I need a change. Something has to give. Was it a series of moments? Was there a certain experience you had? Was it you just wanted to earn money? What was it that kind of made you say, okay, I need to shift gears a bit?
I th- I think it was a combination. I was in that paycheck to paycheck hustle of just surviving, and I wanted to be more than what I came from. And when I was a teller cashing checks and seeing the larger checks being cashed, I would ask people, "What do you do for work? How do you become a physical therapist? How do you become an accountant? Where did you go to school, or what made you get into physical therapy or occupational therapy?" And everything was based on having a college education.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the catalyst. And then I really kind of shelved my self doubt. So that was the light bulb. It was just wanting to be more, not wanting to be in that paycheck to paycheck hustle, have more opportunity. And I realized that my education is something that no one could take from me. And I just wanted more. And I just decided I needed to put the work in so it could work out.
Wow, Sarah, thank you for sharing a glimpse into your background and just that journey. I'd be curious to learn more from you on your journey into banking. So I know you mentioned you started out as a teller, and that's where like your curiosity came to play with like asking questions of customers of their journeys and what careers they had. Um, was that kind of like a situation where you just stumbled upon being a teller because it was something that you thought, hey, it's a decent job and I like the environment? Or was that something that you initially thought, I want to make a career out of this? If you could just share a little bit more to that of just what that process was like for you.
Yeah, so I knew I was really good at talking with people. I knew good customer service, and I worked again at a fast food restaurant. It's a multinational company, amazing training, amazing appreciation. I learned so much from there, but the hours were so crazy. I needed something with more structure, and I felt that I grew out of that job. So it kind of happened by applying to other jobs that had cash handling and customer service experience that had more that 9 to 5. And I stumbled into banking, and I enjoyed it, and it was a really good career path for me, and it allowed me to focus on school.
It sounds like you gained and earned so many skills during that time. And one thing in my role, in my work with my team, we really are trying to focus on is how do we get to a point where our scholars can say, what you just kind of ended on. I like this thing. I'm really good at these things. Here's a career that fits that nicely. Is this something you researched? Is there someone in your path that, was your manager or your leader that pointed those things out? It's like, how did you make those connections?
I I didn't have conversations around the table of what do I want to be when I grow up, or what do I want to become. I didn't have conversations on any help with filling out my college application. It was on myself. For someone trying to figure out their career path and what they like, I always try to tell younger people is figure out a skill set, education path, certification on something that is marketable to the workplace, but then find something that's creative or that you love. So you always have balance and you always can find joy, even if you're doing something that has more utility. Another thing that I do that's super important, just in terms of everything being aligned, is that there's good within that decision and it's looked at in 3 parameters. And you have to count yourself in that, because if you're not taking care of yourself or thinking about yourself, then who will?
Right.
And when you take care of yourself, other good things happen. You're just in a different place. The stress is different. The connection is different.
Thanks, Sarah. Really awesome stuff. I keep hearing from you in almost, I think, every response is, centering how important it is that whichever career that you pursue or take on, that not only does it align with your interests, like whether that be like customer service, building relationships, or solving problems, but to also look for opportunities where you're driven by your core values and where your core values can show up in the workplace, and that it doesn't need to be something that is separate that you do maybe on your own time, but to really look for a way to where those can merge with your career. And so going back to your story, when people experience those, I would say setbacks, or like, oh man, I didn't finish in 4 years, or oh, I did have to drop out my first year because I had to work and things got hard. There are people listening who are being encouraged right now by your story, and or maybe be curious on how did you keep going in those moments where it didn't line up the way that you wanted it to or expected it to. What was your motivation to get up off the ground, dust your shoulders off, and press on?
I knew that the harder I worked, the luckier I got. I knew hard work was one of the things that could separate me. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the most charismatic. You would be very surprised. I am an introvert. I love to be by myself and read. I just was in this mindset that I just wanted to be more than where I came from. I knew that education, I knew that for certain, that would change the direction of my career, of my life, of opportunities. I knew it would even change who is in my circle of influence. And it was important for my self esteem, self worth to complete it. There's no easy solution or clear path to handle adversity and handle setbacks and kicks in the gut while dealing with insecurity or self doubt. It's just knowing that things are going to get better and believing that whatever stress you're going through, it's just temporary.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think in your position, I imagine I should say, the CEO title as is something that whether you started your journey saying, I want to be CEO, I want to be CFO or not, um, it is something that we grow up or we learn along the way of saying, man, one day I want to own my own business. One day I want to be the CEO, the leader of a company. It seems like it could be out of reach for many people, but in your case, you achieved it, and you're making history, right? You're one of the few in my own life, women in a CEO position that I've met. And it's an inspiration for me. And no matter what your industry is, I remember being in high school and similar to you, I had no clue, no support, no help. What am I going to do? I just knew people were telling me, you should do this, you should do that. But what I always remember saying to myself, I want to be a CEO. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew those were the bosses, and I was a bossy kid. And so, thinking about how far you've come and all of the things you've learned, and now having this title of CEO and being one of the few women in the country, right, that has that title. Do you can you speak a little bit about what that means to you? And then thinking on the other hand, what you would say to someone like me as a 15-year-old who aspires to be a CEO? What advice would you have for those, young people that are listening?
So I think it comes with understanding what a CEO is and what a CEO does and what they're responsible for, and not just the title. So the role is really risk management. It's making decisions based on risk. It's also understanding that you're responsible for your workforce, all employees that work for you, their well-being, and then all the customers that they impact, as well as the communities that they serve. So it goes back into values, and it goes back into um, leadership. And one of the things I always live by, especially in this capacity, in this role, this mantra of there's three things I should always do with anybody. And I try to do it and be consistent with it. It's kindness, respect, and acknowledgement. When I think of some of the unrest that's happening, a lot of times it's just acknowledging that there's this issue. But all relationships, all communication is connection. And it really is on those pillars of kindness, respect, and acknowledgement. So even in a CEO role, making decisions, running a business, or making money, if that's your focus, you have to ground yourself with what your values are, and just making sure that you lead, you make decisions that are kind, respectful, and that you have acknowledgement as to who's involved with what decisions you make.
That's really great advice. We actually, on my team, are working on resources for our alumni who are in their about to experience their first year in the job market in the middle of a pandemic. Our alumni from last year that are and have been for the past year going through that same process, balancing the fact that they're graduating, they need to earn an income, but also they need to maintain and sustain a level of comfort and sustainability in their mental health, their home life, etc. Um, what or how I should say um, has relied or how have you in the past year navigated the pandemic, or what changes have you made, or in terms of hiring or supporting your team and the people that you lead as it relates to what you just talked about, knowing there's so much turmoil going on outside.
Yeah, so I think it's just being very authentic. And I think it's just acknowledging that it's okay not to be okay. But it's important to check to see if people are okay. It's that acknowledgement factor. It's acknowledging people. But it's tough. This is a tough year emotionally. But with empathy, there's this appreciation that happens. And again, everything is full circle.
I don't know if you planned it. I think that's the theme of our conversation today: staying true to yourself, staying committed, persevering and knowing that people are around to support and relate and be there with you in especially with Uplift. And we are learning things daily and changes are being made daily, and the commitment stays the same. And that's what I love the most, is that we're committed to weathering the storm and finding resources that can make all of this make sense, and staying true to it. So thank you so much, Sarah. Really, really big shout out to Rely On and all the work you do.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's show. You may find the information we discussed on the description page of this episode. If you have a question or would like more information about what we discussed, please email us at rtcc@uplifteducation.org. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Eyes on the Road podcast, wherever you listen, so that you don't miss our next episode. And until then, be well and shine through.